Hello and welcome to this webcast, part of the Single Sales Principle program. And on this webcast, what we're going to go through is the next element of ERRICA. If you've seen the first three videos on ERRICA already, great. If not, head back to the archive and you'll be able to see them there. The first three videos have addressed the first three areas of ERRICA: empathize, refine, and reposition. And for this one, we're going to look at the fourth element, the I, which is isolate. Now, in some ways, it seems a little bit strange to do a whole video, although I promise you it's not going to be a particularly long one, on something that seems as straightforward as simply isolating the fact that you have got out either the only objection that exists or the only objections that exist. Because it really should be a very straightforward question. Is that it? Is that everything you've got? However, actually putting that into practice can be a lot more difficult and is often a very commonly missed step in the ERRICA process, just to do this little check before we move any further. And there are some good reasons for that. People feel sometimes a little bit nervous about using the isolate question, or it skips their mind and they're hurrying through to get towards the answer. One of the really important elements about the isolate part is that it is a pause before we move on to actually resolving the objection for the customer. It's important to take this pause step for a couple of reasons. One is purely as a check step, but the other is to actually protect ourselves in the sales position to make sure that we're not going to put ourselves at risk and put the agreement that we're going to set with the customer at risk and maybe give away a little bit too much. So let's start by looking at the first one of these, which is simply having the isolate step in there as a check step. There are three potential reasons why people might need that check step, why particularly our customers might need that check step in place. The first is that they're a little bit shy. And what I mean by that is that they might offer an objection to you that isn't the real one because they're a bit nervous or reluctant or have some degree of shyness about expressing what their real objection is. They might be kind of hiding behind, going, there's some reason that is stopping me from buying this product or saying yes to this service, but I don't feel particularly comfortable saying it, so I'll make something else up. That can be perfectly understandable and kind of okay, but it's not particularly helpful when we get to the point of actually addressing the issue that they've got and answering the objection. So we need to make sure that in a nice, gentle and sensitive way we ask the question, is that everything? Have we covered all of the issues that you have with moving forward? To make sure that they've got the opportunity to express something. And if we believe that it's going to be a difficult or sensitive subject, which I'll come on to later, we do it in a very sensitive way, but it's really, really important to get that out there. The second reason might be literally they're a bit confused. They know they're not quite ready to say yes, but they haven't thought it through. They haven't given enough mental effort to actually resolving in their own mind why they're not ready to move on. So again, the isolate step is a really useful little check step to say, okay, is there anything else that's bugging you? Anything else that is causing you to do this sort of scratching of the head thing? And get the customer to think it through. Give them the opportunity with a good pause and a good bit of silence to say, I wonder if there is anything else that I should be considering. It's much better to know that now than to have it come back and bite you later on. The third reason is not that they're shy about it, not that they're confused about it, but literally they haven't got a clue. Something is stopping them saying yes, but they just don't know what it is. And if they don't know what it is, but they still want to say no, we can't make any progress at all. So it's really important, again, to use skillful pauses when asking the question, is there anything else that's stopping you from saying yes? And then let the moment roll until they put that mental effort in there to think, I wonder what there is. I wonder what there might be. So there are three really good and kind of upfront reasons why we use this little pause, this little check step to say, have we got everything out that we need to get out? And that's kind of if the customer is being a good customer, they're being a nice customer, they're not doing anything deliberate or messing around with us. They're just not quite ready to say yes. And we just need to help them along that journey towards saying yes. The protection part is slightly different. This is where instead of it being in the interests of the customer to really get that isolate question out and get a clear answer to it, it's actually more in our interests to get that answer out and get a really clear answer. And there are a couple of reasons for this. One is, if we don't isolate it and we don't say, is that everything? Have we covered everything? There are no more issues preventing you from going ahead with a deal today. What we may do is give away an answer. And then we'll give another one. And then when they come up with another objection, they'll give another one. Now, that could be literally just the customer doesn't quite know and they're thinking of new things all the time. But effectively, what we're doing is we're handing them a gift each time we're resolving something for them. And at that point, it's it's an endless route. We don't know how many gifts we're going to have to give them before they're going to say yes. So we've got this massive pile of gifts that is available for the customer. Now, the real danger is if the customer knows this. If the customer has got some sort of experience or training in buying, or if they've just had lots of experience and know that this is the way you work or this is the way salespeople work, they might know that there is this bundle of gifts available and they'll keep on asking and keep on asking and keep on asking. What we call this is the salami slicing approach. Smart buyers do not ask for everything all in one go, because it would seem unreasonable. It would seem that they would be pushing the boundaries far, far too far, far too hard. So what they do is they ask for one little thing. The only reason I'm not saying yes today is this. Okay, you can have that, great. But actually there's another thing. It's this. No problem, you can have that as well. Great, that's fantastic. We've got those two in the bag. There is just one more thing. And they keep going and going and going. And the problem is, this is your salami, this is your profit, this is your service that you're providing. And they're taking slice after slice after slice away until they've got everything that they want. And you go away, you look back and you think, I've got a deal, but I'm left with nothing. So we need to make sure that the customer isn't deliberately salami slicing, as well as we're not just being overly nice and giving them presents one after another after another. So those are the two reasons why we need to look at this isolate step in a lot of detail and just why it is so important. The challenge then comes, how do we actually ask the question? A lot of it is to do with the tone of voice that we use. If we just say, is that the only thing? It's going to come across a little bit aggressively, it's going to come across perhaps a bit sarcastically and so on. It can just be a little bit rude if we're saying, oh, is that the only thing that's bothering you? It's dismissive. So yes, we need to practice and make sure that we use the right tone of voice and the right phraseology to get the question across in a really positive way. And one way of doing that is to look at three possible types of issue or objection that the customer might have, and be prepared to ask the isolate question in those three ways rather differently. The first one is the kind of objection that we really like. The customer has just misunderstood something. They're not aware that it's available in a different color that the one they're looking at and that kind of thing. It's just easy. It's a nice easy fix. If it's a nice easy fix, we can just put a smile on our face and say, okay, is that the only thing that's stopping you going ahead? Because we know that there is a really straightforward answer to it at the end. And if they say yes, bam, we can move through, commit straight through to answer, and we've got the deal. Those are the nice easy ones, and they do come up from time to time. The second one, which gets a little bit more tricky, is where there is a big, long list of stuff, where we say, is that the only concern that you've got at the moment? Well, no, there is this as well. Okay, and is there anything else? Yeah, there is, and there's this. And we start to have a great long list of stuff. If that's happening, we just need to be gentle in our probing. Go back, refresh each of the objections as they come out, go through, empathize and refine and reposition all the way through each of those objections. But make sure you're really clear on what the total list of objections is before you move further. So if I've understood correctly, the issues that you've got are A and B and C and D and carry on all the way to Z and beyond if we need to. But to make sure that we've got absolute clarity on what it is that we're dealing with. And we need to take that quite slowly and quite steadily and quite calmly. Avoid the temptation to get flustered at this stage. One of my favorite examples of this, which is a little side story, was doing a role play with somebody who wasn't quite convinced about the ERRICA process and the objection handling process. And he said, the issue with this is if you go through this, the customer is just going to keep coming out with new stuff. And I said, great, that's fine. We still need to get it out. And he just didn't buy into it, didn't believe it. So I got him to play the role of the customer. And we kept going and kept going. And I was creating this huge long list of objections that this customer had. And despite the fact he had deliberately set up this role play to be difficult and prove that the ERRICA process didn't work, By the time we got to objection number 15 or objection number 20, he said, "I suppose you think I'm being ridiculous, don't you?" At which point he had undermined his own approach to objecting to what I was proposing. And suddenly the penny dropped for him. He said, "Do you know what? Actually, it does work when you do this." So if you're going down the list route, make sure you get everything out and both parties are really clear on what is on the list and how long that list is before you move any further. The third and potentially trickiest area is where we've actually got something that is really sensitive, where potentially we're treading on eggshells, where we've got a customer with an issue that they're not comfortable talking about. And here we just need to be really careful in our questioning. Instead of saying, "Is that the only thing? Is there anything else worrying you?" which is a sort of positive phrased question but leads into, "Let's talk about some negative stuff," we can actually flip that round completely and say, "What else is there?" If we do "what else is there," and again put that silence in there and use a nice low, calm tone of voice when we ask the question, we can have it almost as a sort of counseling session type environment. One where, do you know what, we can sit down and we can work about this sort of stuff together. So that is what isolate is about. It seems like a really simple thing. It's one question, is there anything else? But the way we do it is really important. And the more skill with which you do it, the greater your success is going to be when you move on to the next two elements of the ERRICA process, commit and answer. Thank you very much for watching this webcast. If you've got any questions, please get in touch. If you've got suggestions for other topics you'd like us to cover, please get in touch, and look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.